Hello. I was asking you, Alex, I don't know if you heard me. Did you have a glass of wine this time?
Sorry, say that again?
Did you have a glass of wine like last time?
I do. I have a glass here with me. And this one is from Oregon. It's an Oregon Pinot Noir from AoA Amity Hills. It is lovely. So what are you drinking down there, Roman?
I'm going to ask this man right here, that guy, to get me an iced tea. Tommy, could you get me an iced tea?
So hopefully everybody on the Alex on Autos channel is actually seeing this too. We're attempting to simulcast this. So Sofian is broadcasting on Redline directly, and I'm attempting to simulcast on Alex and Autos from my guest room. This is not as weird as it looks right away. This is the guest room, not the bedroom there. Well, it is a bedroom, but you know. Yeah.
Well, you were here last week, Alex, so it's okay. Many people have seen that already.
This is not nighttime with Alex.
Yes, I will periodically be checking Redline's feed here for any questions. So if you guys have any questions at all, feel free to leave a comment on Redline's feed or, of course, Alex's feed as well, and we'll be happy to try our best to answer them.
Yeah, and I've got a new YouTube channel called Roman's Basement, so feel free to leave me a comment.
Tell us about Roman's Basement. What's going on?
Oh, you know, I've got. I'll show you. Actually, it's a good question. So let me show you what's going on here. So this is my build headquarters. So right here we have an RC car that kind of a rock crawler that me and Tommy built. And let's see here. Can you guess what this is? You see it?
Is that it looks like the Transformers badge on the grill.
No, it's an old Subaru.
Okay.
Okay, an old Supra. Okay.
Yeah, but the one that we're building right now for all you old-time Tamiya fans, that's the Grasshopper, which is a really cool old-school Japanese RC car. But the one that me and Tommy are working on right now, the one that I'm super excited about, is this one right here. Check it out.
Yes, I like that. I've always wanted a Unimog. I don't know. I could never afford one. I don't know what I'd do with it really, but I've always wanted one.
Yeah, so this is kind of our build headquarters here, and so you caught me in our basement.
That's good. At least it's not as creepy as some people's basements. So
I think my man's coming back here with a drink. Thank you, Tommy. Oh, look at
that. He's like your own little bartender there. That's nice.
Yeah, he is.
Cheers.
So do we, great. You guys.
Cheers up to the camera.
Cheers. Look at that. Look at that.
So, shall we dive into some of Sofian's early questions here?
So I guess the first one, obviously, is how is everybody doing? We've been in isolation for about a month, I guess, was the last time we were in the CRV. Launch was about a month ago. I'm just amazed that it's been that long already.
Gosh, yeah, it has been. Wow. Eek.
I'm ready to just like take a dead fish and hit it over the side of my head. I'm really tired of this. It's a beautiful day here, and I just want to go to like my favorite taco joint and have some nachos and some wonderful steak tacos, and then maybe top it off with an ice cream at like Dairy Queen. And God, you know, I've been eating ramen and mac and cheese.
We've been missing all that good food at those travel events, huh?
Oh, peanut butter and jelly. Oh God, it's getting so old. How about you guys?
I'm definitely starting to go a little crazy. I mean, Virginia went into a lockdown like about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. And before then, we still had like some usual things open, like hair cutteries, barbershops were open. So I think I'm starting to feel it because I need a haircut soon. And I'm just like, I've been YouTubing videos on how to cut your hair by yourself, and I'm terrified.
Oh, get a Flowbee. Get a Flowbee. I finally did. I have to admit that I got one, and this is a Flowbee hairdo. Amazon delivered it in 2 days, and it is not as horrific as I had imagined. But
all right, I'm going to try that.
Because this is a shot from my local grocery store this morning. You can see that there's actually groceries on the shelf. So it's like we had everything. We're doing well over here.
Well, that's good.
That's because I'm coming to you from my secret mountain hideout where coronavirus has yet to come.
Do you wear a mask when you go to the grocery store, guys?
We are supposed to starting this week. I think today. Today was the day, so we haven't been yet, but now we are supposed to.
So everybody, I went running this morning. I go for a run around my neighborhood, and what happened was there was this woman who was running with a mask, and I forgot we're supposed to wear masks, so I didn't wear one. And I swear, guys, she went like 500 feet off the trail. It was like, you know, like
Good for her. Good for her.
yeah,
Social distancing.
yeah. I felt terrible for her. I felt terrible for me. And then it, you know, the whole masks thing, we can't get them, right. You can't go buy them, so you got to make them. And then we did a video this week where we talked about Tesla's biohazard mode. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
It's massive. It's like a HEPA filter that's this big that is in a Model X or a Model 3. And we had to do some research for it. And it turns out that the coronavirus is like I think 0.03 of a millimeter, 0.03, right?
Yeah.
Which from the perspective of a
Well, it's way smaller than that.
coronavirus,
Viruses are way smaller than that. Yeah.
yeah, from perspective of a coronavirus, like a bandana around your face, which is what we're supposed to be wearing, would be like wearing a screen door on your face. You know, they're so tiny. So you know, I'm like, I'd love to wear like the real thing, but I can't find the real thing.
Yeah. I would say that the one advantage to being where we are is that you know, we're in the middle of nowhere, and for California, and trust me, there's a lot of nowhere in California. But the local grocery store is teeny tiny. So when we go at 7 a.m. On the way to the office, because we still go to the office now and then, we're the only ones there, but we still go in. There's nobody else in the grocery store, and it's, you know, so far seemingly unimpacted. They don't seem to have ever run out of much.
All right, I'm gonna quickly turn this to cars because I'm sure people are getting tired of coronavirus.
Cars.
So, Sophia, I got to ask you this, okay?
Yes.
I was reading your post today, right here. This is your post on Facebook, okay? And let me quote, because I really want to know if this is something that you believe or is Tesla paying you. So let me read the quote, Alex, and you tell me what you think, okay?
Okay.
Finally got a hold of the new Tesla Model Y. Congratulations. All right. It's my first time seeing it in person. Good. And let's just say pictures don't do it justice. It really has presence to it, especially with those 21 Uber turbine wheels. And then you get this. All right. So is that true? Are you, I mean, look,
I love the wheels. I love the wheels.
But a Model Y, really? So it's a little bit of a pregnant turtle, wouldn't you say?
I love the tone that you read that in, because it sounded like I was definitely being paid to be a Tesla spokesperson. But no, like, okay, so when I first saw the photos of it, I agreed with you guys. It was hideous. It just looked like a Model 3 that had been stung by a bee and had an allergic reaction. But then, like, I saw it as it pulled into my driveway. The owner drove it into my driveway, and it pulled in. And I looked at it. I was just like, it actually doesn't look that bad. And I don't know, maybe I had a couple of drinks and I just was seeing through these little gargoyle lenses. But honestly, I thought it looked a lot. It did look better in person. You know, if it was mine and I was staring at it in my garage every day, I probably would start to notice a few things that started to bug me. I mean, in the short time that I had it, I was looking around and going, okay, there are certain angles where the car looks weird, but then there's certain angles where I'm like, it looks okay, actually. I just really like the white with the black wheels and then the chrome delete.
Can we all agree that the Model S is the best looking Tesla? Is that fair?
The Model S was the best looking Tesla, but then they gave it a Model 3 front end and it stopped being the best looking Tesla.
Good point.
The Model S was gorgeous. The problem I have with the Model 3 is it suffers from the same thing as the Model X. It's not really shaped like an SUV. It's not even really shaped like an Outback. It's shaped like a Prius. It looks like an overinflated Prius, like the Prius wagon, the Prius V, with a less practical back end. And it's all because of aero. I mean, there's no other way around it. It's a lift back, but it does look like an overinflated Model 3. I don't think it looks bad necessarily. I just wouldn't say that's a hot car. I want to hit that. That's not where I am on that one.
All right, so let's rank them from good to bad, right? So I'm gonna go with the Model S is the best looking, and we own a Model X. I'm gonna go, it's the ugliest, okay? Because that one is like a pregnant turtle with twins, with the catfish face on.
And the panel gaps make it even worse. So yeah, I would agree that it's the worst.
There were a good amount of panel gaps on that Y. I was showing it in video, which will go live on Monday, but there were a couple of parts where, like on the A-pillar, where it meets the fender, doesn't really line up.
Yeah.
The door where the rear door meets the rear quarter panel doesn't really line up. But the interior, though, was pretty well put together. There was no squeaks or no rattles, and it was basically a Model 3 interior. So I was kind of just like, well, I was hoping that they would do something a little different, but it basically had way more space in the back seat, over 40 inches of legroom. And I had a Model 3 when I was filming it because my friend brought it over, and sitting in the two back-to-back, you're kind of like, wow, the Y has way more space, and this is exactly what people.
All right, so would you trade your Outback for it?
I mean, we're going to keep the Outback. I'm trying to get rid of the Porsche right now. That's what I'm trying to get rid of because that's what's going to replace the Porsche. But no, like seeing the two side by side, you know, it's interesting because the Outback is actually taller than the Model Y. The Model Y, Roman, only has 6.5 inches of ground clearance. It's
Yes, I know.
Yeah, it's barely off the ground. I think your X has more ground clearance.
Yeah, I mean, it really has to for aero. That's why it has to be shaped like a Prius. It has to be low to the ground. Otherwise, that battery pack just wouldn't get you that far.
Yeah, so we did a video this weekend where we basically said the Model Y isn't an off-roader because there was some videos where like people took it off road in a dirt field, and the thing got like 2 inches off the main road and into a little berm, and all of a sudden one wheel is already hanging up in the air. Right? It has no ground clearance and it has no
articulation.
Travel.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious about it. You know, our plan was to initially, you know, we had a Model 3 and then we traded for the Model X, and then the plan was to trade the Model X for the Model Y. Should we do that? Is it worth doing, or?
So it actually has an off-road mode in the.
I know. Yeah.
Hilarious. I know we have the Mustang Mach-E on order. We are going to try and find a viewer or a Turo, a Model X or a Model Y rather. So for our fans out there, I did find a Model Y that was available to us. Unfortunately, at the last moment, she had to cancel because the driver's side window stopped working. It just got stuck halfway, and it wouldn't open, wouldn't close. They power cycled the car, etc. So it's going in for service, and hopefully we'll have it once it gets back. But we don't know when that will be.
I will say though, Roman, it's just the X is probably my least favorite driving Tesla. It just feels huge.
The X is huge. It feels huge.
Big, but like
it's heavy.
The Y literally feels like your 3, just barely taller, but it handles really nicely. It's very planted. It's very sporty to drive. So
I have to admit, I do not understand why the Model Y didn't come first. The Model 3 should have been the Model Y, and then later they could have kicked in a sedan version. I just think that everybody really wanted the Model Y. I just think it was bad business.
I think you're absolutely right. So here's a question for you guys. I was driving the Model X, and I thought to myself, there's a bunch of things that Tesla does that people love, and yet none of the manufacturers in the 10 years that Tesla has been doing it have really copied it, right? So let's start with, of course, the over-the-air updates, right? Today, we got an update to our software, and basically what it did, it allows you to look at the video that's being saved to the little chip. So if you have a Sentry mode issue, you can watch it, or if you have an accident, you can play it back, or anything, right? And it's like Christmas. You wake up and you get the little app thing. You've got a software update, and you're like, oh yeah, you install it, and then you're like, oh good, I got this cool new toy to play with. Why aren't the other manufacturers doing that? They just seem so silly. I know Ford, right, is going to do it with the Mach-E, Alex. Is that right?
Yeah, that's what they claim. I mean, and technically FCA does it with Uconnect 8.4, the latest one. However, I think that it makes me wonder actually if FCA kind of got scared, because remember they bricked 1.1 million cars accidentally with an over-the-air update on Uconnect. So Uconnect, theoretically, that level of vehicle within FCA can do it. Not to the same extent that it affects powertrain and all the other systems, but it can do all the infotainment stuff, and it can also reflash some of the other ancillary modules in the computer. It can theoretically push some small updates to powertrain and that sort of thing. But they had a 1.1 million cars that were all of a sudden out of service because they had an oopsie. So I think that's the answer that's always been given to me by like the really conservative companies like Toyota and Honda is, they say if you're the customer that wants that, then there's somewhere for you, but that as far as they're concerned for reliability and dependability, they absolutely don't want that, at least yet, is what they're saying.
The other thing I love about the Tesla is that glass roof, right? The incredible like panoramic.
I hate the glass roof.
I love the.
If I could have bought the Model 3 that we had, if I could have bought it with a steel roof, that's the option I would have gotten, because I had to tint it. It was too hot in the summer.
So you'll be happy to know, Alex, that the one on the Y is even darker than the one in the 3. I noticed that because the back windows are tinted, and they're factory tinted, and the roof one just felt even darker. Like I had the sun blaring over me, and I was kind of like, is the thing, because I thought it was closed. Like it didn't feel like there was any sun on me at all. But actually, I want to answer this quick question. So Awkward Human here left a little super chat, and he asked, what do we think about the e-Golf and VW's EV future? TFL actually convinced us to get one. We love it. We paid way under MSRP for it.
Yeah, tell us, Roman. What do you think?
I love the e-Golf. I thought it was, if you could get it in California for a while and get the federal and state tax credit, it was a bargain of the century.
Wasn't it like $12,000 new, something like that?
Yeah, you could get it. Yeah, it was like if you got the right one, you could, with all the incentives, you could get it down to like 15. It depends on what, how much you. 7,500 in Colorado. We got another, depending on where you were, 5,000. So, and then the dealers were discounting them. But what I loved about it was it's just a really great, and it's just a Golf that happens to be electric, right? And the Golf is one of the best cars ever in terms of driving and handling dynamics, and then they just happen to make it electric, and that's what's so cool about it. Of course, the range was an issue, but but it was really fun to drive, lots of torque, 120 miles, I think, right?
Yeah, I mean, once they fix the range, it should be double that. I think it'd be.
Yeah, but for putting around town, it was great.
At the first, when the e-Golf first came out, I really liked the Soul EV a little bit better because it is packaged a little better, but the Golf was nice to drive, but the range sucked. So then, when they did the slight tweak, it got a lot better. The big thing was the price. It was so cheap.
Well, I mean, for $12,000 or like as cheap as $15,000, depending on where you live, how could you not want to get one? It's kind of like the Hyundai Ioniq. The old one. Hyundai was offering a crazy lease for $99 a month, or at least around the country, and depending on where you live. But I was kind of just like, why would you not want a $38,000 EV for less money than would you'd spend for like a Corolla or a Civic?
And the build quality was like the exact opposite of a Tesla, right?
Oh yes, that's definitely true.
I still tell people, like, even that new Model Y, if you guys value perfect build quality, don't buy a Tesla. They're still not there. Maybe in another few years, we'll see.
So going off on a different tangent here, if we could for a second. So this week we have a Mercedes GLB, and last week we had a Mercedes GLA. And both of these are optioned up to the nosebleed section, GLB 250 and the CLA 250, both, the 250 version, $60,000. So my question is, if you are looking at one of those, would you get that, or would you get a C-Class, or would you get a GLB, or would you get a GLC? Because I have to admit that after having driven both of them for a week, I would take the CLA over a C300, and I would take the GLB over a GLC at the moment.
So I think the GLB is one of my favorite cars of the year. I think it's every so often, like, the manufacturer just hits one out of the ballpark, right? And I think that's the car. It just it's kind of the right size at the right time, with the right design and the right capability. And it's just something. And I don't know what the magic sauce is, but you get in the car and you're like, this is nice. It all just works.
And what's weird about the GLB, I thought, is it's a tweener. It's like it's only a hair shorter than the GLC. So it's not really a subcompact anymore, but it has more combined legroom than an Acura MDX.
Yeah, it's really tall, right? So you get the sense of like having a lot of room in it. And then
the third row thing is wacky.
Yeah, the third one is wacky. I actually love the interiors on the new Mercedes. I love those kind of cool knobs that go back kind of to the heritage of the old 19. It all just works. I hate MBUX, forget that crap, but the design.
It constantly interrupts us while we're trying to do our video. Bro.
Yeah, I like the look. I like the way MBUX or whatever we're supposed to call it. I like the way it looks. But I do not like the layers, and the interface is so convoluted, and you have to hunt through everything to find what on earth you're looking for. And if you're CarPlay is restricted to this tiny little center section for no particular reason at all. Makes no sense.
Can you imagine the Germans are like, Helmut, how shall we do the integration with the human? Shall we give him a touch pad, or shall we do a voice command, or shall we give him a little touch screen? And then, the other guy's like, we'll give him all three.
Yes. And then toss in one of those little twiddle knobs from a 1990s BlackBerry just in case.
Yeah. It's like just pick an interface, touch screen, pad, or voice, and make it work. Really, that's Tesla knows that, right? Tesla works, but
it does. But then it doesn't CarPlay or Android Auto.
No, because they don't play nice with each other, right?
So while we're on that topic, mentioning how Tesla's screen actually works, because you guys know that we just bought that Subaru Outback with that massive screen.
Yeah, how do you like that?
I actually really like the car because it's it's a car that's rugged, durable. You can put a dog in it, it can get dirty easily, and you can take it off roading, and it's just comfortable. It's comfortable, it's efficient, and it's fast enough. But I have to say, my husband came to me the other day or earlier today, and he said, "Babe, I love the Subaru, but I hate the screen. The screen does not work. It freezes. Like when I'm trying to turn on the climate control, it doesn't work. It'll just bug out all of a sudden randomly." And I'm kind of just like, well, a lot of the other brand screens do the same thing, unfortunately. I mean, Tesla's, for me, always worked the best. Mercedes works pretty well, but even the luxury brands, they will freeze from time to time, and they don't work.
Land Rover, dude.
Yeah, the Land Rover's bad. I have to admit, iDrive, the latest versions of iDrive have been pretty solid for me. I know that there have been some complaints about iDrive. What was it, 6?
The wireless CarPlay doesn't always work though on the iDrives for me.
I've never had a problem. And Uconnect in the Durango has been fine. The Toyota system, it's not the most elegant, but it's always been very functional. And the Hyundai Kia systems that we've had, their software's been very robust as well. The problem I have with the Subaru system is it just comes across as half-baked. They didn't spend enough time in the oven. I mean, the way the elements are laid out, like when the CarPlay is up, what you can do with the other part of the screen, it doesn't come across well. I mean, I have to admit that any of those portrait orientation screens the software just needs more work. Volvo's is okay because you can see some of the other options when you're CarPlaying, but why can't I choose what the rest of that display is doing?
Right. Or take up the whole
Rams is the same thing. Like you've got CarPlay going on and then something below. Ram, I think, has a better implementation than Ford, though. Like with the Ford system, when you put it in reverse, it's got the 360-degree camera. The screen is so impossibly small, it's probably like the people that are like live streaming this, if they were to try and see something on my phone with this fuzzy, grainy thing, and everything is so tiny, why couldn't they have just moved the image down, like below, used the whole screen for the 360 cam thing? It's just, I don't know who's designing that software, but it's not good people.
I think, if I were to rank them, once again, I kind of like going from best to worst. I think the best, Tesla does work. I mean, they're a software company and they build some really great software. And I think Uconnect works really well. It's just easy to use, intuitive, and you can figure things out. On the other end of the scale, I think the ones that I really struggle with are Land Rover, just because it's so slow. It's like, it's like a sexy suit that doesn't work for anything else. And actually, for the most part, Volvo was, I think, really cool. And then it got like stuck 5 years ago. You know what I mean? It felt like that. It felt really cool 5 years ago, and now I'm like, okay, yeah, I get the swiping, but there's just too much swiping and going and scrolling.
There's hope that they'll be replaced by Google Auto next year.
Yeah, that'd be cool. And then the German brands, they're just really fussy, right? I mean, they work, but really fussy, like nested windows within windows. It gets, if you don't know it, it's really hard to but imagine like putting your mom into any of those, or your dad.
I have to admit that I'm torn on Tesla's system, because if it had CarPlay, I would be all over it. That's the only thing it's missing. I think it's intuitive, it's well laid out. The mapping function is probably the best. But then, they go off on weird theological tangents, according to Elon Musk, like no AM radio, no satellite radio. We'll do the streaming thing. You're only connected via Bluetooth. Why? And then no CarPlay and no Android Auto. And it's like you could relegate it to a tiny window somewhere. I just want that interface, because it's so much easier to interact with your device. And if I don't have that, then I think that my next favorite would have to probably be the Hyundai Kia Motor Group systems that they use in all their vehicles. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles that you find in the alternatives, but it just works all the time. And Uconnect is really good as well. I just want it to work. And when I plug in my phone in the morning, I don't want to wait 20-30 seconds or like a full minute with the old Mazda systems to get your phone to recognize. It's like, and I don't want a stupid joystick. I don't want a trackpad. I want to stab I want to touch it. I want to touch that button and make it work. I don't buy any of the Mazda crap where Mazda's like, oh, it's so distracting because your hand-eye coordination when you're on the road. To which I've always said, well, if you have used the software for any length of time and it's simple and well laid out, mind you, then you glance and then stab, and I can stab that option right there while I'm looking at the camera. It's not really a hard thing.
So in terms of my favorite, I mean, obviously I think Tesla's is really well. I do think it could use Android Auto and CarPlay. I'm hoping they'll eventually add it. Hyundai's and Kias I think works really well. And then I had some good luck with FCAs, although I have a Gladiator Mojave this week and I don't love the screen. Yeah, I don't love the screen. And it's been kind of laggy. It's been a little laggy. It's been a little slow. So sometimes I have good luck with the FCA ones. Sometimes I don't. I don't like really the Honda ones, although the ones in the Accord's a little better, but it's still not perfect. Toyota's been doing a better job on their newer systems, but every brand, you know, none of them is really perfect. That's the thing. Is
That's
like
true. It's true.
We're in an era where screens are so important because we all interact with our smartphones and everything, but none of them are really perfect. Like I had the new RDX A-Spec as well a couple months ago, and I thought I liked the system then, like when I first tested it, and then after spending a little more time with it, I was like, I actually hate it. I don't like it at all. It's a little better than Lexus, but that's not really saying much. But I want to answer this super chat really quick. So my phone was actually telling me about the New York Auto Show, and Acura was supposed to be unveiling the Type S concept last week. And Timothy S here was asking, do we have a guess on horsepower for that new Type S if they had shown it last week?
Yeah, what do you think, Roman? What do you think their new transmission can do?
Because it's going to have a 3-liter turbo V6 is what they were saying.
I'm going to say it's going to be north of 300. It's got to be that's kind of the magic number, I think, at this point.
My real question is, you know, what's it going to be limited to in torque wise? Because one thing seems to be universal is that there has never been a front wheel drive transaxle that can truly handle over about 300 pound-feet of torque in lower gears. So that's why you look at like Lincoln Continental, 400 horsepower, theoretically 400 pound-feet of torque, but it is way slower than a ton of rear-wheel drive options that have less horsepower and less torque, because the key thing is that in those lower gears, you're not actually getting the full deal because the transmission would grenade. So that's what I kind of wonder is like, can Honda's 10-speed do that? And if it can, then everybody should just instantly abandon their transmissions and just buy Hondas.
Yeah, I mean, the Type R is, you know, at that number, and it seems to do it pretty well.
Yeah, 300 is kind of that limit. It's like, you know, the Mercedes, the new 8-speed DCT, that can handle a lot of torque, and that's how we get those crazy fast times.
Yeah, I mean, I think the new TLX Type S needs to have at least 350 horsepower. If it doesn't at least have that, I think it'll be another missed opportunity for Acura, and they could really use something big right now. I mean, all they have is the RDX, and it's been on the market for 2 years now, and there's still no Type S. There's nothing else really that's keeping it interesting when we're seeing all these new products, like, for example, the GLB that you've got.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you guys think the companies are doing right now? Because there were supposed to be all these cool new unveils in New York, right? Then in Detroit. I mean, you know, what's Ford going to do with the Bronco and the baby Bronco? Where are they going to roll those out? I mean, those are.
I've tried emailing a few of the PR people, and they basically told me we are not sure. Like I asked Acura, when are you guys unveiling the Type S? They said we're going to do it, but you'll hear from us in a couple of weeks. So I think
Ford wasn't sure either when I talked to the people I know there. I would not be surprised if this thing continues, if they do what Hyundai did with the Sonata, a mixture of that and what we're going to get with the Supra, which is, you know, some sort of webinar, and then they send us all the cars. So for anybody watching, you know, I'm sure Roman you have a date for your Supra, right? I'm sure.
Yeah,
Toyota.
right.
And Sofian has a date, I know. And we'll have ours in early May, and then at some point or another, we'll all be allowed to talk about it. But they're just going to circulate the cars around, and then say, "Go for it, guys!" at some later date. I have a feeling that's going to be it.
And GM's got the big trucks coming out, right? The Escalade, the Tahoe, and the Suburban. Those are huge money makers for them. How long can they, like, you know, keep sitting?
And then the Cadillac and the Buicks were also canceled too. The Encore and the AT4.
Yeah, I mean,
CT4,
to me, new product is the lifeblood of a car company, right? That's what keeps everybody employed. And right now there is no new product. I mean, how long can these car companies, you know, just go into limp home mode, right? It's really terrifying because you know, when this happened last time, it did take a huge impact on the economy. You know, right? In 2009, we went from like 16 million units a year to 10 million, and you know, Ford was the only one of the domestics that didn't get bailed out. GM had to get bailed out. And I guess people are saying, yeah, well, this is different. It's not like a recession. It's, it's this kind of artificial pause we put on, and everybody's hoping that when we come out the other end, that it'll just start up again. But gosh, I hope they're right.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the industry now. I mean, I think a lot of brands just reported first quarter sales earlier this month, and they were all roughly down between like 30 to 50%.
Yeah.
In terms of sales. And even like I'm noticing Redline's views have been down, like from all the
yeah, all of our views are down.
Yeah, well, people aren't buying cars, and that's the
Yeah.
thing is when they're not buying cars, and the manufacturers aren't showing new products, dealers are shut down. Like,
so to all of you out there that are watching this on either channel and our live, or our snap or whatever we're calling this, what is the chat feature you get to pay for? Super chat. That are super chatting, that are watching commercials, etc. Thank you, because some of us would like to eat.
Roman, what do you have for testing this week? Are press cars still coming in consistently for you?
Yeah, so we've got some issues. It's getting harder and harder, as this goes longer. So Ford, you guys know, shut down their press fleet for us, and then Land Rover, Range Rover, JLR closed theirs as well. So we haven't gotten those. Right now we have a Seltos in the office, and we have a Venue. So we did a review.
So tell us what you think of Seltos versus Venue.
How about if I tell you what I think of Mazda CX-3 versus Venue? We took them off-road to see actually if they could go off-road.
And the verdict is neither really.
The verdict is you don't want to take a dual clutch off-road because
not the Venue with no.
The Venue's four-wheel drive. Tommy wants to take that off-road very badly, so
DCTs do not do one thing very well. That is low speed anything.
But I'm super impressed by Hyundai and Kia right now. I mean, those guys are just knocking them out of the ballpark. Both the Seltos and the Venue are punching way above their weight class, right? The little Venue, it's like a little tiny sub. What does it compete with? Like the Fit, maybe, right? Would that be the closest?
Well, it's different for the accent hatchback. I think. That's...
Yeah. But
Fit,
it's
not Juke, the Kicks, right?
It's for 21 hours. You get heated seats, you get all this crazy cool stuff that you would expect to get in a car costing twice as much, and yet it's
because I know we're going to get a question. Tell us, Roman, how much is Hyundai Kia paying you to say that? There's the conspiracy theory is that somehow all of us in the automotive industry have been suddenly paid off to say that Hyundai and Kia's products have gotten better lately, because they honestly used to be truly terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, obviously, no one's getting paid by Hyundai or Kia here, but
you didn't get your check this week.
I didn't get more last week. But I've been talking to the people that I know within the companies, and we started a new podcast, right? Talking Cars, and next week's episode I talked to Chris Chapman, who's the guy who designed the Kona, for instance. Mm-hmm. Actually, he did the first BMW X5 as well. And we were talking about that. We were like, how come these Korean car companies are doing so well? And he said there's a real sense within the company that they're the underdog and that they have to overperform to catch up to where, the Japanese are at. And I think that's what's making them so successful, right? They're the ones who feel the pressure to because look, he was telling me, when you go and work for BMW, you're working for this iconic brand, right? And there's a certain kind of expectation that people have. But when you go to work for like Kia or Hyundai, these are young companies that haven't been around that long. Mm-hmm. And so they're hungry. He didn't say that BMW wasn't hungry, but that's kind of the sense I got for it, right? That they're hungry and they're really pushing and they really want to prove themselves. Whereas the more traditional car companies, have been around longer, and so they're a little bit more kind of staid and a little bit more kind of in the business already. That makes sense.
I've also kind of thought that the honestly relatively unique way that they've decided to organize themselves, Hyundai and Kia together, in that their chairman seems to delight in competition internally, whereas the classic American conglomerate did not like internal competition. If Oldsmobile had something, Pontiac couldn't have it. And it's like the whole, like even Jaguar Land Rover that was supposed to be a little bit more folksy. The original tale was that the reason the engine bay in the Jaguar XJ was so narrow was because they did not want a Land Rover engine to be able to fit in there, because they did not want a Land Rover engine in a Jaguar. And the Hyundai Kia Motor Group is like, oh, internal competition's lovely. Fight against one another. You know, it makes better product. And I have to admit that makes a little bit of sense in a way.
You're absolutely right. Like, you talk to the Kia PR people and the Hyundai PR people, and even though they're in the same building, it's like they're two different companies. It's really crazy.
And the best tales are you know, you end up at auto shows and the Hyundai people are there hopping into a Kia, and the Kia people are hopping into a Hyundai, and they honestly had no idea what the product would be until it was actually launched at the show. And you're like, how could you not know? And that's just the way they seem to operate. And meanwhile, you look at General Motors, for instance, and their latest pickup truck interior design, and their claim was that they benchmarked internal designs. And they said, you know, I was driving around at the GMC Sierra launch, you know, back in, was it 2018, with two of the interior designers, and they claimed they had never been inside the new Ram pickup truck.
Wow.
It's like, well, so that explains a lot.
I want to go back to the questions really quick, guys, because this guy has been asking this a few times. The username is Carlos Gon, and he says, Sylvian, how does Nissan get rid of its bargain basement brand reputation? I'm only going to this question because, Alex, you just praised the Sentra in your latest video.
I did. I have to admit, I actually really liked the Sentra. You liked the Sentra too, as I recall.
I did. I'm waiting for the turbo version. That's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the caveat. I do have to say that if I were shopping in this segment, I would buy a Civic Turbo. Mind you, I would do that. With a manual, probably. But the Sentra is crazy cheap. And for the price of a top end, or for the price of a top end non-turbo Civic, you could get way more stuff for less in the Sentra. So it's and it looks good, and honestly, it handles better than I ever thought it would. My expectations were not the highest. You know, you expect that it will improve, but I honestly did not expect it to handle as well as it does. It's not Civic, but it's definitely, I thought, better than Corolla. And Corolla's actually, it really improved a lot too.
Roman, did you drive the new Sentra? I couldn't remember if you guys.
I did. No, I didn't. Did I drive it? I was at the launch, but I don't think I drove it. I think this is a great time for Nissan to reinvent itself as a smaller, leaner, more competitive car company. You know, out of the ashes of the old Carlos Ghosn, if you're in Lebanon.
So have you seen the Rogue prototype, Roman?
I have.
What do you think? Do you think it's different enough to reinvent themselves?
There's that rule, right? And that is, if the car is successful and the Rogue is their bestseller, it's never revolutionary, it's always evolutionary. So they're not going to mess with the design. It's going to be very similar. But you could use this, you know, you could use this as a time to get rid of some of the vehicles that aren't really selling all that well, right? Full-size sedans, you know, Maxima front-wheel drive. Yeah, it's good looking, but who's buying that, right? Maybe you say goodbye to that.
Say goodbye to that. Say goodbye to Titan.
I just thought, Roman, you guys just reviewed the new Frontier with its new engine as well, and I saw was it Andre? Andre drove it.
Yeah, that was really weird, huh? In 10 years of doing this, I've never seen that except for Porsche, right? Porsche does that. So Porsche will, like, at a 911, they'll keep the old power plant and then they'll redesign the car, and then a couple of years later they'll put a new power plant in it.
Right. But Ford kind of does that with the F-150.
Kind of, yeah. They've been kind of slowly,
kind of, sort of. But yeah, you know, it's really hard, I think, for Nissan to sell engines because you can't see them, right? So even though it's much more fuel efficient, it's, you know, the transmission is better, not that much faster. Up here it was like 0.4 of a second faster, quicker. But it's hard. It just, you walk in the dealership and it's a 14-year-old Frontier. That's why I would say that. When other companies do this, they don't necessarily do it in the order that Nissan did it. Like Ford will replace the body and leave the old drivetrains, and then drivetrains get a refresh later, you know, the tick-tock method. But nobody generally seems to do new engine in old vehicle yet. I mean, that does seem like a little odd.
There's a story there, right? I'm sure, you know.
I'm sure there's a story.
Yeah, because of, you know, either production restraints or something. That's what happened.
So we have a super chat here. If we could dive into it, it's what do we think about Ford's subcompact courier pickup truck, the Ford Focus based one?
Yeah, we get that a lot.
That's the one that's in Europe. I think I've seen it. Okay.
Yeah, it's supposed to come to America. I've been huge fan of mini trucks for a long time, because I think that people who live in urban environments want a pickup truck, but you can't really park an F-150 in Chicago or DC, anywhere, and you probably can't even park like a Ranger. So I hope they bring it. I think, especially with the economy the way it is, it may be the next hot segment, right? Because for a while there, the midsize segment was super hot with the Colorado and Tacoma, and now we may be moving down. So if they're brave enough, bring it over.
I've always wondered that. Do you think that the interest will be there when there is definitely a lifestyle associated with a truck? And that's, I think, why we see a lot of trucks being purchased, because people want that more rugged lifestyle image. Do you think that a Ford Focus-based truck is there?
We have a huge disagreement about this. I think people buy trucks because they're utilitarian and ultimately useful. And we want to do this video, right, where we go and look at the hitches. Tell them what we want to do. We should do this.
So my segment idea is my hitch don't lie. Sort of like on the Shakira thing. And go find a big box store in a few major cities, maybe 2-3 major cities in America, and see how many people have ever towed with their truck. And the reason that I say that is because Ford at the Super Duty launch said that it was 75% of half-ton truck owners will tow at least, what did they say? One time or less a year is how they phrased it. One time or less a year. So I'm like, but how many of those tow once a year, and how many of them never tow a year? And Ford absolutely would not say what percentage that was. And I think it's less than we're thinking.
I'll give you an example. So you guys know Alex, our videographer. Do you know who he is? He just bought a Silverado, and I was like, "Why'd you buy?" And he bought it like last week, right? This week. So it's not an easy time to buy a truck, right? And actually, it's a good time to buy a truck because he saved $11,000 off the MSRP.
So it was a new one.
Yeah, and I said, "Why'd you buy a Silverado?" He came out of a Grand Cherokee, and he said, "I needed a vehicle that would load two." He's a motorcycle guy, so he has him and his buddy go to the track, and he wanted a vehicle where he could put two motorcycles in the back and then take those bikes to the track, right? And he bought it not because of a lifestyle; he bought it because he needed functionality, and that's the argument me and Alex always have. It's like people buy trucks because of the functionality; they're just ultimately useful.
Oh, I definitely agree on the usefulness side. I'm just wondering how many people end up actually using them for that intended purpose. How many people actually tow frequently more than what they would tow in an SUV, and how many people really use the bed aside from a once-a-year trip to Home Depot for a sheet of plywood?
Yeah, I think more than you think, but it may be regional too, right? If you're in Texas, that may be different than if you're in California or Maryland, right?
And the origin of this, I have to say, was an argument that I had with my parents. My parents live in small town Texas, and my dad was arguing on the same front. And I keep telling him that he is relatively unique in by far over towing what he should legally tow and what his truck is capable of towing, and what any rational human being should ever tow, mind you. And so we went to the local Walmart in tiny town Texas, and sure enough, there's a whole line of lifted F-250s and Silverados and Rams, and everyone had an absolutely pristine hitch, aside from some truck nuts and a drop hitch that looked like it had never been used. I mean, it was never greased. The chrome was perfect on it, and you're like, why would you put a drop hitch and a chrome ball that cost hundreds of dollars on your raised F-250 if you have never towed a damn thing in its whole life? Like, why did you blow the money? I don't get it. I don't know. I don't have the answer for that.
Maybe the dude likes replacing balls, I mean,
it could be. Maybe it's the weekend hitch, because we went on a weekend, and maybe they have a workday hitch that is used, and this is the weekend hitch for show. I don't know. That kind of sounds about as rational.
So I gotta tell you guys, we just had the new Titan at the office this week. Andre's was towing with it today. If they had come out with that Titan instead of the last generation, they would have done really well. They really finally made it its own truck. It's really a much better truck in terms of everything, except maybe payload. Payload was way down, 1,200 pounds of payload, which is, you know, pretty small compared to like our long-term Silverado is 1,600. But yeah, I really like that truck. 60K though, dude, 60K for a Titan.
Yeah.
Pro 4X.
You know, to be honest, I actually am surprised that Nissan is still trying to make the Titan. I think that Nissan should have just given up, saved the cash, and put it somewhere else.
That just shows you how important trucks are.
Yeah, but I mean, they're not selling. And how much money have they made for how much money they blew on Titan and Titan XD and standard cab and all the other things that they've given up on, and
have you been to Nashville?
So low.
Have you been to Nashville, Alex?
Yes.
Every truck is a Titan. All right, let's get back to cars because Sophion seems like
I swear that every one of those ones in Nashville though must be a Nissan employee. Back to cars.
Yeah, Sophion, what do you got this week?
So this week I've got the Gladiator Mojave, and then I've got a
back to trucks.
GTI. I was actually supposed to get the Mazda CX-30, but
how's the GTI?
Yeah, you know, I was actually really excited because when I saw GTI, I was thinking, oh, is it the new Mark 8? But it's just the old one. It's the last model year.
Oh.
You know, it's a perfectly fine car, but I think the problem with the GTI is it's not quite as cool and as special as it used to be. I think that's because everybody's been going toward electrification and such. Like a front wheel drive turbocharged hot hatch is very fun, but it's also a little more old school. Like,
that's true.
Especially because the GTI has always been a little bit, I don't want to say boring, but a little too grown up sometimes. Like it's a little too serious. And that's the reason why, you know, people will go for like, because that GTI I had was $38,000, and I was like, that's Type R money if you could find that sticker. But then, you know, VW dealers are taking like $8,000 off the sticker for those. So driving that car is making me think I'm excited to drive the new one. But right now I'm waiting to get my updated schedule, because Honda said they were going to send me the 2020 Type R later this week or later this month. And have you guys also had Honda reach out to you about getting that?
Yes.
Because the media drive was canceled.
Yep.
No, I haven't gotten that one. But didn't you go to Geneva? Didn't you get to drive the new Mark 8 in Geneva? Wasn't that you?
Geneva was canceled.
Yeah. Alex and I were supposed to go to Geneva. And sadly, it got canceled.
Yep.
It's like, nope, it got canceled. So sadly, I didn't get to see it in person. And I asked Volkswagen, I was like, hey, are you guys going to unveil the car, you know, online or anything? And they said, we don't know. Just stay tuned for another couple of weeks.
If you were going to drive them, they must be some running around already, right? Have they unveiled them in Europe at all? Do you know?
It's already been unveiled in Europe.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes on sale soon.
Are they selling them there already? Yeah, they're selling them?
Yeah, I think it's supposed to go on sale like
Might
May.
be.
It was supposed to be in early or late spring or early summer. It was supposed to go on sale. So yeah,
my biggest bummer was I was supposed to go to the UK to drive the new Defender, and that got canceled. That was the one trip that I was so excited for. And I know, especially because a lot of our friends, and I'm super jealous, like Emmy Hall got to go to Namibia and drive
it. She was there for like 2 weeks. It was like a vacation for her.
Yeah, I'm looking at her Facebook, Instagram, and she's like, here I am with the antelope and the elephants and the hippos. I'm like, what the hell, Emmy? Come on.
Emmy did take a little bit of extra time on vacation. It wasn't entirely on JLR's dime, but obviously they flew her there and back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so didn't get to drive it. Is it coming? It's supposed to be like here, right? They're supposed to be selling them now.
But the Corona, you know.
I think Land Rover actually donated their entire fleet of Defenders to like first responders.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
If you work for the Red Cross, I think they donated all of their fleets to the Red Cross. So I was like, I thought that's cool, but yeah, it would. I can see why you're upset about that, Roman. That would have been fun.
All right, wait, let's talk happy times. What are you guys looking forward to driving the most this year? Like, what's the one vehicle that you're like, I can't wait? Because at some point we got to get through this, right? And we'll come out through the end of the tunnel, and hopefully we'll be walking around with masks, but we'll be walking around as opposed to like sitting around at home.
I am excited to drive the upcoming Genesis GV80 and the Geo.
Oh, beautiful vehicle, huh?
Really super excited to drive those, because like there's a YouTuber, Asian Petrol, that already drove both.
Yeah.
In Korea.
I saw that.
Yeah. And I was kind of just like, why is he driving it already? This isn't fair.
And the rumor mill is saying that apparently the refreshed drivetrains, the new 2.5-liter turbo and the 3.5-liter turbo, are going to get in the Stinger.
Mm.
So if you can't afford a G80, maybe you can afford a Stinger.
Are we a little disappointed by the power output of that new 3.5, by the way? It makes 375. I guess I was hoping it'd be like over 400.
I would say it depends on the performance, because the current 3.3 twin turbo actually delivered very similar 0 to 60 numbers as the G50 G50 Red Sport, Q50 Red Sport from Infiniti. So right. I wonder if Hyundai and Kia have underrated it a bit. So if they are, and that's the same thing on the 3.5, then maybe it'll be okay.
Right. So
I think
how about
performance will dictate.
Alex, what are you looking forward to driving this year?
The new Supra seems interesting. I'm surprised that they added more power so quickly. So that'll be interesting. I also am looking forward to the RAV4 Prime.
That's right.
But not necessarily because of the RAV4 itself, but because Toyota is thinking outside the box and they've suddenly decided to make a performance plug-in hybrid. And I wonder what that could mean for the future of Toyota and Lexus. Because that's a polar shift from every other hybrid they've done before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about you, Roman? What are you looking forward to driving this year?
There's like 5. Bronco.
besides the Defender.
Bronco, Defender, the TRX. I think that was supposed to come out as well.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so, I'm looking forward to that.
We were supposed to get a new Grand Cherokee this year too.
New Grand Cherokee.
I know. I was like, Alex, are you going to trade your Durango in for that?
The Rivian, right? That got postponed. That's another
one
supposed to come out this year. I did get to drive the new Corvette. That was pretty amazing.
You guys did 2 or 3 great videos on that. I was watching a few of them. I love the one. I think it was your first one where that Tacoma tried to do the burnout. Isn't
that crazy?
He was feeling a little insecure, Roman.
Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to getting that in the office. I asked for it and no luck. I think it's in like the LA press fleet, probably in New York.
Corvette.
Yeah, but not here. Certainly in Denver, we won't be getting it. How about, is it in yours? Is it in your press fleet, Alex? You might have it.
Supposedly not yet.
Yeah.
My guess is LA. LA has it.
That's got to be like the poster child of like every freaking YouTuber bought that car, right? I don't know of any YouTuber that didn't buy.
Strandman has it, and then Street Speed I think has it as well.
Yeah, Strandman has it. It's like the Gladiator was one before that, right? Everybody went and bought the Gladiator. So for me, when that kind of internet pig pile happens, I'm kind of over it. You're like, okay, now that it's become the hot kid on the block, I want to go to something else.
Yeah. So Roman, with that on that subject, are you still thinking about trading in that Model X for that Model Y?
I think I'd rather trade it for Rivian if we can actually get there.
That'd be great for you guys.
They did a video and they showed
one of those on order, but I'm surprised we have not actually gotten an email from them saying that it's delayed yet.
Oh.
Did you see the video where they kind of went through the factory and they interviewed? And there's nothing in the factory. There's no robots. It's just an empty, and to go from that to actually building trucks is a really long process, as Tesla found out, right? So we got an email from somebody who said, hey, I've got the Cybertruck on order, and I'm like, dude, putting $100 down on a website is not ordering anything. I think we're at least 2 years away from the Cybertruck.
Oh yeah, and we've already found out that it's not going to look like that. They finally admitted that it's not going to look like what they showed.
Yeah, and realistically, I think this time next year we may see a trickle of Rivians, but everything's been put off for a long time. Yes. So I think the Bronco's ready to go. So maybe we'll trade it on the Bronco. It's kind of our
that would be fun. You should do that.
Our audience, yeah.
How many cars do you actually have in your fleet right now, Roman? I know you have a lot. I lost count.
I have a rule of no more than 7.
Okay.
But keep in mind, Sophie, a lot of them are like $4,000, right? So we have a LR3, which was like $5K. We have a VW Touareg, which was like $5K. So we have a lot of kind of just older fun. The cool thing for me right now is like when I was a kid, right, growing up, there were all these cool cars that I wanted, but you couldn't afford them. And now all those cool cars are not Countach's, right? I'm not talking about that. Those are,
Right.
but like one I'm looking at it, I always wanted to get. I was looking at this morning. I always wanted to get a smart convertible. It's just a silly little. You can get a smart car now for like $3,000. I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. It's a shitty car, but it's still pretty cool.
So what is your favorite car that's in the long-term fleet?
My favorite car, the one I really like right now is we traded our Rebel for a Silverado Trail Boss. And it's really weird. I still can't wrap my head around this. So in every conceivable metric, the Rebel was probably a better truck. So more horsepower, right? Hemi versus a 5.3, better interior. But I like the Silverado more. And I just don't know what it is. Maybe it's the design. It's just a really cool truck.
It does look good. Because I love the new Sierra. I think the Sierra is.
I love the Sierra. I love the diesel. I have to say I like the diesel a lot more than I thought I would. I was a little bit worried because I wanted to like the Ram 1500 Eco Diesel more than I really do, and I would never buy one. Engine braking downhill is really non-existent, so you're digging into your brakes too much. But I have to admit that like the engine braking supposedly on the Silverado is supposed to be light years ahead. It's not light years ahead, but it's good enough. So I have a suspicion if I were to buy a truck right now, it'd probably be a Sierra 1500 with the diesel.
They're good-looking vehicles. Can I give a little plug out to the Gold Hitch? Andre and the team worked really hard to do our annual best towing truck in the land and best off-road truck in the land. So we just did our deliberations for the Gold Hitch and the Gold Winch Awards, and we'll be giving those out next week. So stay tuned for that.
And where can they find that? Tell us.
TFLtruck.com, or our new podcast, Talking Trucks, with me and Andre. So yeah, we're excited. We got a new podcast. Both me and Tommy are doing Talking Cars, and Andre and myself are doing Talking Trucks. So it's pretty fun.
Sounds good.
How is your whole team doing, Roman? I know you guys have maybe 10 people. Did anybody get sick? Has anyone feeling sick? Is everyone kind of staying to themselves?
That's a really great question. So Matt, one of our videographers, luckily we went virtual like 3 weeks ago, right? So we're all working, and it's really hard. I don't know how you're doing it, Sophian, but it's really hard to do video production. It's a collaborative effort, and when you're trying to do it via the internet, it's really hard. But Matt, his girlfriend tested positive, and so last Thursday, he went and got a test, and as of today, he still doesn't know. That's how far we are in testing in its backlog. Yeah. So one of our guys might or might not have it. We don't know.
Is his girlfriend still doing okay?
Yeah, she did fine. She actually tested afterwards, and she was one of those mild cases. So she was like, I had the symptoms. I wonder if I had it, because Matt was like, did you have it? And then she had it. And now Matt, of course, is in that same position. And the problem is, even if you have it, there's so let's say the test comes back positive. What else? What do you do? I mean, it's not like you have it.
That's it. I mean, at least and you don't visit grandma, and you don't kill grandma.
Yeah,
that's the goal.
So we're our views are probably, I would say our views and our revenue has fallen off a cliff.
Same with ours.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So I really appreciate all of you guys doing super chat for all of us for these things that we're doing, because it's becoming interesting. We applied for that small business loan. So we'll see if we ever see that money. It's been quite the kerfuffle to try to get that money. How about you, Alex? What's your views like? What are you doing?
I've fallen off a cliff. We have one viewer here who said that their uncle passed away after 8 days fighting the coronavirus. So sorry to hear about that. Our thoughts and prayers are definitely with you. We're doing the same thing. Views have fallen off a cliff. Alex Autos is this weird conjoined entity with an electron microscopy business, and revenue's fallen off a cliff there too. Yeah. So we're just hanging on, trying to make sure we don't have to lay anybody off. So far, we've tried to pay our employees, the same wage as normal. We haven't furloughed anybody. We haven't laid anybody off. We haven't taken a paycheck ourselves in a month and a half. So at some point or another, I've got to pay myself. But our goal now is to try and make sure everybody can survive and pay their rent and pay whatever they're doing. We're hoping that all of our employees will qualify for the $1,200 federal grant thing that they're cash out the door thing. And we've also applied for the payroll forgiveness program. So if all of that goes through, we've told our employees that we'll keep them on payroll. We're not going to dock their payroll $1,200 or anything because that seems wrong. But we are encouraging them to donate that money to the local food banks, because there's a food bank right around the corner from our office, and they operate every Wednesday, and every Wednesday the line has become increasingly longer. So at this point in time, the food bank line is like a good 1.5 miles long.
So I'm gonna run this idea by you and see if you guys are interested in doing this. I'm an old school journalist, right? So I come from kind of general assignment reporting. So I always thought that journalism should be more than driving cool cars, and so I'm always trying to figure out like ways that we can hopefully make an impact and do something that's beyond just doing car reviews. And one of the things I wanted to do was kind of do a challenge to a lot of the YouTubers. So I was watching, we all watch a lot of YouTube videos, right? And I was like watching the Shmee video where last week he took his Senna. How much is a Senna, by the way, guys?
$1 million+ bucks.
Yeah, a lot. Somewhere near a lot.
Yeah, he takes his Senna out, and the headline of the video is something like, and I don't know Shmee, I have nothing against the guy, but I'm gonna tell you, I think my job at the company is to kind of try to be in tune with what's going on in the world and try to kind of figure out what the zeitgeist is, right? So that we can do videos that people want to watch. And so the headline was something like, "I'm afraid to drive my Senna." And I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if he's afraid of like getting coronavirus or something. No, he was afraid to drive his Senna because he got it in an accident, and he was afraid that it would happen again, that somebody would hit the car. And I'm thinking to myself, holy cannoli, dude, there are people who can't afford to pay their rent.
Yeah.
And you're about driving your Senna. It just felt really tone deaf. And then I started thinking, now that we're, I don't want to like be a pig pile. This is his thing. But I thought, how do we address that? And I thought to myself, maybe what we do as TFL is we go and donate, food to local food bank, and then throw out a challenge to other YouTubers out there to match that amount and do the same thing. So I wanted to do a video this week where we would go and, go to the food bank and find out what kind of food they want, and go to like Sam's Club, buy it, and then donate it to them. And then, we had a team meeting. Everybody was like, well, you can't do that because you're locked at home, and, you're going to break.
I've already looked into this, because next week we're going to send out an email to our employees saying that we're going to match their donations to Second Harvest. And so we looked into it, and Second Harvest is really saying they just would rather have the money, because they can have their distributors for food products sent directly to them, and that's going to be the safest way to do it, rather than having canned drives or something. That's the easy, and then they can also adjust what they're purchasing to what they need. So if you do a food drive and you buy things that you think they might need, that may not be what they actually need in that local area at that time.
Yeah. But you think kind of throwing out this challenge to other YouTubers, because I kind of feel like we've been really blessed, right? We're getting paid for doing something that we really love, and in the end of the day, that's kind of a dream job, right? Most people get paid for what they have to do to put food on their table, and in a way, we're getting paid for what we want to do. And so I kind of feel like we need to give back to the community as a thank you for supporting us, right? And like Doug did a video basically talking about, that don't worry about him. Doug DeMiro, I'm talking about, right? Don't worry about him. He's okay. His job is to provide entertainment and, keep people's mind. And that's that. I feel like we do that, but I feel like we need to do more than just that, right? Like there has to be something, because the people that watch our videos are the people that are now struggling, and not that we're not struggling, but we have a bit of a runway, so it might be a good chance to show that we're more than just guys driving Corvettes, but we're actually trying to give back and thank the people who are watching these videos, because you guys are so great with the super chat. It has to go both ways.
Yeah, no, you bring up a great point, Roman. And actually, we were so me and my social media guy Vince, we were actually going to do a charity stream tomorrow, where he's going to be playing Forza and other racing games for 5 hours tomorrow. So you guys get bored, feel free to 5 hours. I was just like, I would love to join you on that, but I'm social distancing and such. But if you guys have some time tomorrow, feel free to jump into the chat and such. But we wanted to see how that goes. But if it goes really well, I think you guys should definitely do the same thing, because we were going to donate to Feeding America. So that was something that we were going to do to kind of give back. Because you're right, when you bring up a great point, we are very privileged to do what we do that doesn't feel like work. Even though, like, obviously we're all affected by it as well. We're all kind of in this together. And I do feel for people who can't pay the rent, because I have a lot of friends who just work regular jobs and they all got laid off. You know, it really hurts to hear them say that.
And you know,
we are still busy. That's the beauty. Is even though we're not getting paid as much, we are still busy. We're still keeping busy.
And just for the record, you know, not all of us are, you know, the Shmee guys, and we don't all have Lamborghinis. If I, you know, turn my camera around, you can actually see my 550 square foot house back there that still has house wrap on it because we have never actually installed the siding. So if you want to know more about that, you can find us over at the Garden Channel. But it's not like I live in some sort of palatial mountain dwelling. I have a 550 square foot house with a full basement and a 140 square foot guest room here. That is all that there is.
You have awesome land to film on, though, Alex, and I'm jealous of your land.
But that is all that there is here at the Alex Onato's Empire.
And you got that RAV4 hybrid, so you know
you're
styling driving around with that. And before you had a Soul EV, you know, these are some.
Yes, you know, and now we have a Nexo because you know, hey.
How is it? Do
you guys have a stay-at-home order in Colorado, or are you not allowed to go out and film technically, or do you still film at home?
So we have a stay-at-home order, but we're technically exempt because we're a media company. And so like I've been trying to do filming, but also then do like I just did a story where we went to. There's this cool company called Adams Polishes here in Colorado, and they do like detailing stuff. And they converted their production to hand sanitizer. So I went and did a story on them, and they actually sell it. You can actually go to their website, Adams Polishes, and buy hand sanitizer. And they're not trying to make money on it. They're just trying to do their bit. Yeah. So we're trying to do videos like that to show that the community is giving back. And so, yeah, we're a media company. We can go out, but I don't want to put my people in danger, right? So it's just me and Tommy live together, so we work together. And then Andre can shoot himself. So the videographers have become editors, and then me, Andre, and Nathan do the videos on our own, and then they edit them.
Yeah, and here I do a hands-off handover. So my videographer and editor, she's obviously not videoing me, so I'm doing all that myself. And then she comes and picks up the video in the middle of the night and sprays herself down with isopropyl alcohol at the door. You know, our
Dropbox, Alex. You could Dropbox it, or there are other ways to do that.
We're doing it in 4K, so we have way too much data, and her internet connection is a little too slow.
Yeah.
So so there's a lot. You know, it's like handing off 90 gigabytes of video per car is a little tricky.
Yeah. I think the reason why I haven't gone to 4K yet, it's just so much space. It's tough.
We've gone the opposite way. We've like 720 with the potato.
Well, the world is falling apart, so I don't blame you, Roman. It's just weird to see everything kind of fall apart right before your eyes and stuff. I mean, a lot of people have been asking, how is this going to change the auto industry? Because like cars have been getting so expensive nowadays and such. Like, how is this going to people are questioning if it's going to be able to rebound when all this comes back.
I don't 72-month loans are going to become the normal, right? I mean, just huge, like you're going to take out a mortgage if you want to get a vehicle. I think the car companies understand that, so I think they're probably going to they're pretty apt at figuring out like how to help. You've seen the commercials, I'm sure, right, where if you buy a car, you don't have to make payments for the next year, or they'll help you pay your rent. I mean, I think the car companies, if they have enough runway, they'll do that to kind of jumpstart it. So I'm not too terrified, but I think one of the things you'll definitely see, like we saw it last time, is consolidation. I think there are certain companies that are prime.
Who do you think is the first car company to go bankrupt?
Maybe who do you think is the first car company to be purchased or consolidated?
I'd say Nissan's not looking great right now. I really feel for them because I love their.
I would say Nissan is so large, they're probably going to be okay. Maybe there's some reorganization. They've already announced that they're downsizing a bunch.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I would argue that some of their problem has to do with the way that Japan does business, and they were basically coerced / required to acquire Mitsubishi, and Mitsubishi's been a boat anchor. So supposedly, and this, mind you, these are rumors, but supposedly this is part of why Toyota has the arrangement with Mazda and Subaru, because in Japan, the government has a lot of pressure that can be applied on these companies, and the writing is on the wall that should Mazda or Subaru suffer some financial troubles, that Toyota would be the one that the government would select to bail them out. Because the government in Japan doesn't want to bail out. They want to get another company to bail out. And that's supposedly why the Yaris has been completely replaced with Mazda products in America.
Yeah, I think, like you look at the press fleets that have shut down, one is Ford. So you wonder, why do they cut that? That's got to be a tiny number in their budget. And the other one is JLR, right? JLR is owned by Tata, which is a big Indian company. And for a long time, they had deep pockets, but now India's completely shut down. So you wonder if that's something that at some point Tata will say, we can't keep, financing, and maybe it's time to let that guy go.
With Jaguar Land Rover, I would assume it's budget. And in my head with Ford, I have to think that they are worried about the PR of, some octogenarian auto journalist working for a newspaper somewhere, getting a car, getting coronavirus, and then somehow it being linked back to them. And then the headline will be, Escape Hybrid Kills Journalist. That's my guess.
Yeah, you might be right.
A lot of companies have limited fleets for smaller outlets, and that's unfortunately a problem if you're a smaller website, or if you're a local newspaper and this is part of your revenue stream, you may not be able to get the cars that we can get, unfortunately.
Yeah. I actually reached out to Audi as well, and they told me yesterday that they're not handing out cars right now. So I think Audi might be another brand that jumped on that band. I'm hoping that all the other brands don't do it, but we don't really know. The country is supposedly going to be shut down for at least another month, and I'm just kind of like, it's been only a month, and I'm ready to leave. I'm ready to get going again.
I mean, the Volkswagen Group did consolidate a lot of different brands, and maybe if times get tough, they could let some of those go as well, right? I think the ones that are probably going to be the ones suffering the most are going to be like the Bentleys of the world, just because
the rich are going to be fine.
The companies that do really well.
Hey Tommy.
Hey Tommy. Mac and cheese. See?
How's the yogurt? Is that yogurt or is that mac and cheese?
Oh, that's that mac and cheese.
Classy. I'm having a glass of Pinot, and you're having mac and cheese, and was it
chocolate milk?
Oh, chocolate milk.
I have to run to the bathroom.
I'm shocked, Tommy. Tommy, I would have thought that Yoo-Hoo would have gone with the mac and cheese.
Yoo-Hoo is awful. I hate Yoo-Hoo. Like no milk in Yoo-Hoo. Have you ever looked at the label on Yoo-Hoo? It's like contains 0% milk.
Yeah, it's just all sugar.
That's the point. Yes. Hello.
Yeah, as our grocery stores start to shut down, I am quickly progressing to like the diet of a 3-year-old. So I've got my chocolate milk and I've got my mac and cheese.
So I will once again brag about my local grocery store, the Summit store. This is the veggie department. I don't know if you can see that. We've got everything. See, it's a full line of veggies. They also had toilet paper and paper towels.
So there's actually a website that I've been going to, that like Costco 97, that tracks the toilet paper around the country at Costco, because I actually need toilet paper, and every time I go, it's gone.
So someone here says that Tommy is 12. How old are you, Tommy?
Yeah, that's about right. That's close
13.
enough.
He's 13 at least.
Yeah, 13 at least. No, I'm 22. Actually, I took a picture of our grocery store as well. I don't know if you can see that, but it's just a flaming dumpster.
So the one benefit to being in California is that this is where they grow all the things that all of y'all eat out there. So thankfully we can dig our claws into it before it escapes.
That's funny. And for those of you that don't know, Sophian has a new dog that he's been playing with, and has a cat he started completely ignoring.
Oh,
boring. What is that? Oh, my cats? No. Alex just likes to give me a hard time, but Louie is fine. The Cedar will chase Louie around the house, and I feel like I have children running around the house because they make the house very messy. They're barking. They're knocking stuff over. It's starting to get a little crazy. It's in my house.
So back onto cars, people are asking, do you think that FCA will kill the Chrysler brand as a result of the coronavirus pandemic? I'm going to go with no, because it doesn't cost. I don't think so either.
Chrysler definitely. You wonder why do they only sell two products? It doesn't really make sense, but Chrysler has such a long history. I would be very surprised if they.
I would say it doesn't cost them anything because all the dealerships are conjoined. There's no standalone Chrysler dealer, and so you've got a 300, and 300 sells actually, better than Maxima, oddly enough. And maybe they'll get something else, but you got a minivan that sells best in the segment. Why not?
So Tommy, how are you
Second
dealing with
best, I should
the
say.
quarantine? How has it been? Are you going a little stir crazy? Have you wanted to kill your dad yet?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's been real bad. Mhm.
What is the method of death that you would choose? Is it running over with a car or?
Yeah, but it would have to be a silent car, something EV. You know what I mean?
Oh, you got a Model X.
You do?
We do it like ideally it would be a manual EV so that you could forget to set the parking brake and just have it gently roll down.
Yeah.
But no, it's good. It's going pretty well. I'm going crazy just sitting here editing. You know, like I feel like there's maybe I should learn a new editing program. We use Final Cut, Premiere.
Now's the time to move to Premiere.
Or After Effects. Have you ever seen like someone who doesn't
Yes.
quite know how to use After Effects try to make an effect? That's been me for like 3 weeks straight.
I am very happy with my After Effects abilities because we paid someone to do all of our new graphics, but then I needed to tweak some of them because they always look great in concept form, and I love the work that Ben did for us. If anybody's looking for an After Effects dude, I can highly recommend him. But as in any process, you cook up something and you think it's great, and then you see it in Final, and you're like, oh, and some of it's my fault for sure because I picked the wrong font initially, and I was like, now I need to replace the font. And then a few little tweaks here and there, and then so I had to teach myself how to use After Effects so that I didn't look like a moron going back to Ben, going, "Can you move these things around?" And I impressed myself. I actually improved things. So in our drive section, the steering wheel like turns side to side as it goes on, and that was all me. So
Wow.
everything else was Ben, but the steering wheel that goes back and forth, that was all me. So you know.
So I need you two to settle an argument my dad and I have been having. We've been scrolling Craigslist endlessly, and I've been looking for a new project car. And we found smart cars, like the first generation smart cars that came to the US. And I want to buy one and lift one because there's a company that sells lift kits for them, and then put a rooftop tent on it that extends the whole way. But then I read that the transmissions are terrible.
Yes,
like
they are truly terrible. They drive like a drunk 12-year-old that's never driven before and is trying to drive a manual. So
is it like usable though? Is it
there's nothing. Then all of a sudden you're in first gear. Then there's a moment where you've redlined, and then there's nothing, and then all of a sudden you're in second gear. It is the worst thing.
Don't do it.
Don't do it,
Tommy. You will hate
but
that car.
what you should do is what I've been telling your dad to do for ages. Get a Dodge Charger, all-wheel drive, an old all-wheel drive Dodge Charger, and there's a company that makes a pickup truck El Camino conversion kit for it.
Yeah, they do a Beetle one too. I saw that. It was really cool.
Epic. Yeah, they make golf conversion kits, but you could have an all-wheel drive El Camino style Charger, and then you could lift it.
That would be really cool. That would be super
cool.
Yeah,
and you could probably do that for under $5,000.
Well, I was looking at
the kits are no welding kits, so you cut, and then everything that they sell you goes over the cut joint, so you don't have to weld anything.
Just like bubble gum, like you just chew some bubble gum and then it just sticks down.
No, it's like there's like carbonate and fiberglass wraps. So like the bed and everything, you cut the body, and the bed and all the components fit over the cut portions. So that way they hide your janky cutting.
So do you remember in the previous generation Charger, there was only a couple of years where you could get the 5.7 Hemi with all-wheel drive?
That's the one you want.
Yeah. But have you seen the prices, at least in Colorado, on those? They are enormously expensive.
Get it in California. Let's go. Let's do a cars.com search while you speak amongst yourselves.
So Tommy, I think you should continue your
put this
your
on our
Mercedes
channel so you can see it.
and look at a 90s Mercedes SL. I've always loved those, and I could totally see you driving one of those because you're an old soul.
So for a period of 3 months, I had a 70s Mercedes SL.
Ooh.
And I thought I was hot stuff in that car. 76, bright red, $3,500, and it lasted exactly 2 months before something broke that was so monumentally expensive to fix that I had to ditch the car. In fact, actually, it broke in such a way where the Mercedes SL expert, like the one guy who knows everything about them in Arizona, gave up. He's like, I don't know. I've been working on this car. I've been looking at all the manuals. There's nothing that can fix it at this point. It's time to go. So yeah, I love. I don't know why. So if you don't know, like Alex and I have kind of quirky tastes on cars. So I'm like really into 80s and 90s Mercedes. And then Alex is really into 80s and 90s like British cars that'll never run.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we're both like in the
It's
expensive.
Jaguars.
I would say that's a different Alex, right? Because I kind of like the British cars, but I really want them to run.
Alex, so you've had what, an XJR, right? Didn't you have an XJR?
I had worse than that. I had a XJ Super V8, which was the cross between a Van and Pla and the XJR, and then I had a 2000 just regular XJ8, and I have to say that my personal expenditure limit was enormously exceeded by both of those cars. So I got talked into them because Rob was like, "Oh, they're so pretty, they're so pretty." And I was like, "Well, I don't disagree with you on that front." And then my love affair with the Jag, the last one, the Super V8, was that every time I drove it, I loved it. Because it really handled what it really was fun to drive. It handled well, it was comfortable, it was gorgeous. It was a beautiful car inside and out. I've always loved that particular Jaguar design, but it was always broken. And it was broken in ways that only a Jaguar could ever be broken in. And the last year that it was around, it cost us $6,500 in repairs, not maintenance, repairs.
And was it even worth that
Not
much?
accident repairs, like shit broke repairs.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, it's got to go because this is new car payment. It's got to go.
Yeah,
but I still kind of miss it in a way, I have to admit. And it didn't drive very many miles, etc. But I have to also say that I would never buy a new Jaguar again because they don't look like Jaguars anymore.
Yeah.
But they're better than the old Jaguars.
So here's a 2010 Charger RT all-wheel drive for $5,500.
That's
it
pretty
exists.
How many miles?
Really good.
That one does not say. But there are a bunch around $7,000, $8,000 with the 5.7 and all-wheel drive. You can 2009. There's a 2014. That's a newer one. Not bad at all. We can sort by mileage here. So let's see. Mileage 60,000 or less. Let's see what we come up with.
Did you see that? Yeah,
go for it. A little bit more expensive. Those are in the $15,000 range.
Yeah, they're kind of pricey. Yeah. Have
But
you
hey,
have
should
you
do it.
seen that? Did you see that thing that FCA put out asking for like design competitions for Dodge trucks or Ram trucks?
I did.
Yeah.
I really want them to do that.
It looks really cool. The Rampage they put together. Yeah.
The question is, how much longer can they sell the exact same car? Can they sell a 1990s Mercedes forever?
I might have to be replaced.
I'm almost thinking that if there's a company that could get away with it, it would be FCA. They might be able to sell a 1990s Mercedes forever.
Yeah, but the Challenger's awesome. Like
It's awesome. I agree. Yeah. And so's the Charger, the Durango, the Grand Cherokee. They're all actually pretty good overall.
Yeah.
Like this thing could continue for a long time.
No, let's hope it doesn't, because I'm like itching to go to an auto show, and with Detroit being canceled, New York's probably going to be canceled. Now it's going to be LA, which if the country's not opened up by November, I don't know what I'm going to do. It's crazy.
See, I would advocate for a complete reskin, not a complete redo, because there's nothing intrinsically wrong with Charger, Challenger, 300, Durango, Grand Cherokee. So if you could reskin it and maybe make it a little bit lighter, what's not to love? I mean,
what's funny?
Don't break it. Don't break it, whatever you do.
So everyone, and this is like the classic journalist thing, they're like, the Challenger is the last classic American muscle car because it's all about straight line performance, big engine, and a comfy barge. But they've really taken that to the extreme, because the interior has like the quality of a Fisher Price like Playmobil. You know what I mean? Our body gaps were so big you could sink a Titanic in between them. I really think that they've gone to the extreme on the Challenger to keep that authenticity there in a lot of ways. Although I will say, if you pay a lot of money, you can get a pretty nice interior on some of the Challengers.
Yeah, see, but I would argue that even though the panel gaps are enormous, the alignment and the fit and finish is honestly better than Tesla by a long
Well,
way.
yeah. So maybe Tesla's a new muscle
Right.
car.
So it's like I would, and strangely enough, Dodge in Consumer Reports' own survey, Dodge beat Honda in 2020.
Interesting.
I mean,
that's
mind
nuts.
blown.
Well, I want to answer this one question. Somebody left a comment. HTT said, "Guys, what is the best road trip car for a family of 4 with 2 teenagers?"
2 teenagers.
2
The
teenagers.
biggest
two
thing you
Tommies
can
in the back
afford.
seat.
The biggest thing you can afford, so you can separate the teenagers.
Yeah.
So like a Ford Expedition, so someone
Yeah.
can have their own row.
Something with rear seat entertainment. With
Yeah.
and
I
separate
guess the
monitors.
question would be, do they get along? Because my brother and I did not get along as kids. So my family needed the minivan, and we got our own row because we were never allowed to sit next to one another.
Okay.
What about just like 2 Miatas? That would be the perfect.
Put them in separate cars. Right?
Dude, the perfect solution is not one car.
Right. Yeah, exactly. No, I think a Ram 3500 towing something they can sit in would be ideal for sure.
So I'm being accused of being a Dodge fan. Am I a Dodge fan, guys? Or am I a rational Dodge purchaser? See, I don't necessarily consider myself as a Dodge fan. I just when I bought a Dodge, I looked at the available options and I was like, I could do that one.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're a Durango.
Why you bought the Durango because you needed the towing ability. I mean, I get accused constantly of being a Tesla fanboy, or I only like fancy German cars. And I get accused of being a Toyota hater.
Yeah.
I was just like, what? I actually really love Toyotas, but they're not perfect, just like every other brand. So I wouldn't say you're a Dodge fanboy, Alex, but you definitely like to mention the Durango a lot whenever you're, which is normal.
It tows, yeah.
Like I'm going to be mentioning the Subaru a lot whenever I'm comparing stuff because it's what we have. It's a really great car, and even Tommy, you guys had your Outback for a little bit. You liked it, didn't you?
Yeah, I did love it. It was a really it was a previous generation, right? And it was just kind of on the base end of it. I think it was like a premium. What's the one right above the base model?
2.5 premium.
Yeah, the premium.
Yeah.
It was
Yes,
brilliant.
even though it has that, let's be honest, reputation, it's a great car.
It is really good.
I would remind everybody, just taking a pause here, like if you are a subscriber to Redline or Alex Autos or TFL Car, be sure you hit the notification bell icon, because not everybody has their bell on. So I've noticed that some people are talking about, why don't I get notifications? Make sure your notification is enabled. So don't just subscribe, don't just join, hit the bell icon as well.
So Sophian, I heard you got access to a Model Y.
I did, yeah. Like I had a viewer. He who locally he lives like maybe 30 minutes from me. I saw a photo.
Refrain from swearing because it's a family audience.
Well, I saw that he uploaded a photo of his car. It was a white Performance, and I messaged him on Facebook because I've actually been Facebook friends with him for like a year. But he's gone to a couple of the local the WAPA car events and stuff. But yeah, I just reached out to him. I said, hey, would you let me borrow your Model Y for a day just to film it? And he just said yes, and we made it happen. So Alex, I'm keeping my fingers crossed for you, hoping you can get access to it as well.
Yeah, so we have a person that's gonna rent us one, so we're gonna have to pay, but we're gonna rent one. But her Model Y apparently had a driver's side window issue. It stuck halfway and it wouldn't open or close, and so they power cycled all the remote stuff, and it's gonna have to go in for service. So we don't know when it's gonna be
Tommy,
back.
are you guys working on getting access to a Model Y from a viewer?
No, we tried to buy one and that hit a dead end real quick.
Not available.
Yeah, so I gotta say I'm really excited about the Model Y. Like I think they're gonna sell a bajillion of them.
Yeah.
But I just saw my first one in person. I was super excited about it, and let me tell you what, guys, that is one horrendous. What happened? I mean, it's like they took a Model 3, put it in an oven, it poofed out, but only parts of it poofed out and not equally.
Yes.
And it's huge. It's massive.
Your dad called me out on that one because I had said that it looks better in person.
And you said it looked good in white, refrigerator white.
I like it in white. What can I say? I like white cars.
Maytag white. It looks like a refrigerator.
Like any camo where you couldn't see it in any of its surroundings would be the ideal color. I mean, guys,
the one you saw, Tommy, was it a Performance or just the non-Performance?
I don't know. I had to close my eyes before.
Savage. You know what? Maybe it'll grow on you. Maybe if you see it a little bit longer, it'll grow on you. Maybe you need to see another color. But the back seat and trunk of that car is so huge.
Yeah.
It's basically what America wants.
I have to agree with Sophie here. I don't think it's hideous. I think that calling it hideous is a little over the top. I don't think it's great looking. It's not like I want to have that car's babies or anything, but it's not Pontiac Aztek.
But compared to so how about the Jaguar I-Pace? It's its closest competitor. They're about the same size.
I think the I-Pace is more attractive.
Really?
Yes.
I-Pace is more attractive. I-Pace is cool looking, and I have to admit, I seriously wanted an I-Pace. When the I-Pace was announced, I'm like, oh my god, it does not look like the Jaguar that I like and I remember, but I want an I-Pace. I wanted it super hard, super bad, wanted it. Then I drove it, and I didn't want it anymore.
Honestly, Alex, I think walking is more attractive than the looks of that Model Y.
Hey, Tommy. So there's one of I want to actually read out this comment. Ann Nguyen said, "Hey TFL, I'm down the street from you, and if you guys want to borrow my Y, hit me up."
Oh well, now that's never gonna happen.
You better be nice and stop calling it hideous.
No.
So a lot of people seem to be agreeing that the Model Y is ugly here. The question is, what do you think is the ugliest car on sale today?
I'll do it in the comments.
Ooh.
What do you think, Tommy? What's the ugliest car on sale today?
Ugliest car on sale
in North America. North America.
Ooh, what a question.
Silverado is not overly attractive unless it's RST. Actually, I was surprised. We just had the Silverado RST, and I was totally fine with it. It's the ginormous chrome version that I despise.
That's
I got one.
Stop by that one. What are the ugliest cars? I have to Google this and see what other.
How about
EcoSport?
Is EcoSport worse than Mitsubishi Mirage?
Actually, okay, so I would have to say the Clarity is pretty ugly. I hate the Clarity. I think it's really
Is Clarity worse than Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross?
So for me, I would say yes because of those hideous wheel skirts that are on it.
Oh, so you're a wheel skirt hater. Okay.
I don't like the wheel skirts.
But what about
the CHR is also ugly.
What about a Buick station wagon from the 80s? You didn't think they were hot stuff with the wheel skirts?
No, sorry, not for me.
You're not a Roadmaster fan?
CHR, not a fan of those. No.
I actually think that the Aztek has aged pretty well, all things considered. Like the cladding on the side, the stacked headlights. No. It's kind of come back, guys. Have you seen the side of a CX-30 is covered in that black gray plastic?
Oh, it's too much cladding.
Well, yeah, the Aztek was their first.
The CX-30 has a lot of cladding, but I still think the CX-30 is better looking than Mazda 3 hatchback.
Oh, really?
Yeah. From the front, the 3 is lovely, but from the back, oh my god, the Mazda 3 back end is ugly.
You know what actually really surprised me, Alex, is the cladding on the Y. It's just enough. I know it's pretty subtle.
It's pretty subtle, but it looks like a sedan. In that photo, it looks like a sedan. That absolutely does not look like a crossover or an SUV. That is a liftback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it looks like it has a trunk.
But no, it has a front. It has a front, but
I kicked Tommy out again, so I'm back.
Oh, good. Everyone was asking
now it's time for you to answer. What is the ugliest car on sale today?
Ooh, that's a good one.
In North America only.
Ugliest car on sale. So I thought that the Nissan Juke was pretty darn ugly.
Not on sale anymore.
Sucking a lemon, yeah. And I'll tell you, it's not ugly, but I'll tell you the one that disappointed me the most, and that was a Bolt. When that came rolling out, I was at the Detroit Auto Show. When that came rolling out, I thought that it was an April Fool's joke. This is the future of electric cars and this little tiny.
It's unfortunate looking. I don't know if I would call it ugly though. It's odd looking and the proportions are wrong. But is it gag worthy ugly?
I would say yes.
The Prius has some models that are gag worthy ugly. That the V, like we talked about earlier, that was not a good looking
Prius
car.
Is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Not on the V is not on sale anymore though.
I know.
It's gotta be on sale now. So
what
do you think about is Mitsubishi Mirage it then? It's is it dumpy or is it ugly?
I saw that at the LA Auto Show last year, and I thought the wheels were a joke. Have you seen those things? They're like this.
Little go-kart wheels.
They're like that big, yes.
Yeah.
It would just bolt right on. I go with the Mirage. Mirage is just,
Yeah. The
it's
current
like
Mirage is really ugly.
they didn't even try. I'm sorry, they didn't even try. Right? They just like somebody said, "Hey, let's take this car and put all the pieces of the most economical cars ever and call it done." And that was what they did.
So someone here thinks the Avalon is the worst with its little sort of like Hitler
Big
mustache grill.
Yeah. But the rest of the profile of that car actually looks good.
You know what cars were pretty ugly, there's like cars you wouldn't think should be ugly, but they were. The BMW GTs. You look at those and you're like, what were they thinking with the big back ends on?
Like the 5 Series GT.
Yeah.
Those were a little weird. Those were a little weird.
And then there was that whole when the X6M came out, the X6, right, where like Honda did the Cross Tour and the ZDX.
Oh yeah.
Those were pretty bad too. Just the proportions were really just all wrong.
Yeah. Let's see.
I'm having troubles thinking of anything that's truly ugly though. Like,
how about
oh my eyes, my ugly.
What are the cars or trucks that you think are holy cow? When you do a double take, I think the Stinger is absolutely beautiful.
Stinger's gorgeous. I have to say that almost everything that Mazda does is universally good looking, except for the 3 hatchback.
Okay, yeah, I'd agree with that. I think Mazda.
But I think this is more of a PR angle though. But the thing that gets me about Mazda is that Mazda always acts like they're the pretty girl in high school. That they're like, I'm so pretty, I'm so beautiful. Look at me, I'm so hot. So like every time we have a press presentation where the PR people from Mazda are talking to us, they spend so much time talking about how the car is art and the car is beautiful and it's this, it's that, and we're like, okay, we get it. You're pretty. Let's move on and talk about why you don't have an 8-speed automatic.
Or a diesel. That you promised like 5 years ago.
Yes.
So I think for me, like the best looking car that I've seen so far is the I love the 8 Series Grand Coupe. Like when I first saw that.
It has a really great presence.
Yeah. When I first saw that, I was just like, yeah, because I wasn't sure, like when we tested that Mercedes GT 4-door, I liked that, but then I saw the 8 Series, the M8, I was like, that's why
I think Ford, especially Lincoln, has really got their mojo going, right? The Aviator, I think, really good. The Navigator is actually really good in kind of a brutal American way. I think it seems like Cadillac is lost in the woods in terms of styling, but Ford has really figured it out, right?
I'm so torn because I actually always liked Cadillac's art and science design.
Yeah,
maybe I'm the only one, but I really like that angular thing that's been going on, like actually for over 10 years. Like I've been totally fine with the exterior design on every Cadillac for the last 10 years. Interiors have needed a bit of help, and their pricing scheme, oh my god, they're expensive. We had an XT4 that was $60,000.
Really, that's cheap for that car. I think the one I had was $70,000.
So
XT4 or XT5?
I'm sorry, it was the XT6. My bad. It was the
XT4. We had an XT4 that was more expensive than the most expensive Range Rover Evoque, and the Range Rover Evoque's already crazy.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow. So $60,000, just like the GLB. Which one would you buy?
Oh, GLB any day. But going back to the GLB, would you GLB or would you GLC?
I would GLB. I love that car. I think they did a good job.
I'm going to drive the AMG version of the 35 because I think the 250 is fine, but I want more power.
That's the thing. So for the price of a GLC, a base GLC, you could get the GLB with the AMG 35 and a third row and some options here and there, and the third row is bigger than the third row in the Lexus RXL. And almost exactly the same size as the third row in an Acura MDX.
That's crazy, dude. That is
crazy.
That makes no sense. No sense.
I mean, admittedly, behind the third row, you have nothing. It is like 4 cubic feet. It is nothing behind the third row. But that third row, emergency mother-in-law third row, is about the same size as an MDX.
You know what else is a good-looking car? It's grown on me. We had it at the AVAs for a while. The Mercedes-Benz GTs, right? Those are interesting-looking cars.
Oh, that's a beautiful car.
They still look good even after 5 years on the market. I still see one of those on the road, and I just stop and I stare. I'm like, that is such a beautiful car.
And I think
pay more attention to 911.
I think that the prettiest car has to be the Lexus. What is it? The LC Coupe.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
torn. I'm not the biggest fan of the Lexus grille, but I see why they needed to do it. But I'm not. It's not my thing.
I think it works on that car. On that car, it works. On certain cars, the big grille works, and then on other ones, you're kind of like it looks like an afterthought.
You think it works on the X7?
I like it actually. It grew. I hated it at first, but it grew on me. Like
Yeah.
the ones that we drove, I was kind of like, I like the big grille because I prefer the X7 over the GLS. And Alex, I know you just had the GLS 63.
Yeah, I'm so torn because the GLS 63 versus X7.
Yeah.
I like the X7 if you got the ivory and blue interior. I like that interior a lot. I think the color palette and the materials really spoke to me. But there's no corollary to the GLS 63 that we drove because BMW, for some crazy reason, said there won't be an X7M.
Right.
How about that like little delicate, almost like crystalline or crystalline shift knob? Isn't that? I mean, I think Volvo did it first, but it's really.
Yeah.
When I first saw it, I was like, "Holy cow, this is."
I'm really torn as to whether I would get. It's like if I had kids, I would probably get the Mercedes because for some reason Mercedes went all in on child friendliness, and there are incredibly few vehicles where you can leave a child seat latched into place with latch anchors in the second row and tilt and slide the seat forward to get into the third row. And there are even fewer where you can do that in all three seating positions, and the GLS and the Atlas are the only two in North America that you can do that. So if you're a family, I would GLS. If you're not, I think I would X7. It's slightly less expensive, too.
Did you get to go on the Atlas cross tour? What is it called? The Atlas.
That was like practically our last event. It was that, and then it was Honda. I liked the Atlas Cross Sport in a vacuum, but it's expensive.
Mm-hmm.
I'm torn.
It was like 51. The one.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably gonna get a better deal on it, but I have a feeling if my money were on the line, I would just be super cheap and I would buy the Santa Fe.
I'd get the Outback.
Well, you got an Outback.
It's because it's a wagon and it's cheaper than the Santa Fe.
By the way, Sophia, I love the color. That's a beautiful color you chose.
Thank you. I hated the color at first,
yeah.
but my husband loved it. I wanted him to get white, and he was just like, no, I want the green. It grew on me. I actually really like the green. My least favorite color is that hideous brown. I still can't stand that brown color, that car.
So what are your thoughts on the rumors of Mazda going rear-wheel drive?
I'm more interested, I guess, in their straight six that they're working on. I just don't know if it's...
Supposedly that would be coupled with going rear-wheel drive.
Okay.
And isn't there a rumor that the rotary's coming back as well? Didn't I read that this week, that they're putting a rotary back into something?
In range extender form.
In the MX-30 as a range extender, which I'm kind of like... I don't know, like Mazda is such a small company. You know, I just did a video on how their sales were so bad last year, and they've been really tanking, even though they have beautiful cars and they have great products. But I think what Mazda really needs to work on is they've been so focused on being premium, but they're not going premium all the way. Like there's some things that like, for example, the Mazda 3 doesn't have a heated steering wheel or cooled seats, and you can get that in like a Kia Forte or a Hyundai Elantra GT. But they tout premium, but then they went to a semi-independent suspension. So I think Mazda needs to. I think they can go premium, but they need to add back performance because they don't have Mazda speed anymore. And then they need to also do features to go all the way.
Yeah, because Mazda's been doing this like we are a sporty thing for so long, but then now they don't have an independent rear suspension and they don't have the power to be sporty.
The 3 is it's not slow, but it is kind of slow. Like it's not as fast as it used to be.
You know, Sophia, you really put your finger on it, right? For a long time, Volvo lived in this weird space too, right? You had like the European brands, you'd have like Volkswagen, Mercedes, right? And then Volvo kind of lived in between those, right? Yeah. Not quite premium, but not quite. And then they took it all the way to the premium segment, and all of a sudden their sales exploded.
Yeah, so because the middle is not a good place to be.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
It's like a wise person once told me, never sleep your way to the middle. It's true.
What's the point, right? You want to go to the top.
Exactly. You want to go to the top.
Or the bottom, but not the middle.
Well, that's exactly why Genesis is in the spotlight right now, because look at what Genesis is doing. Like they had a very slow start, and of course they're still working on their dealer network. But you know, the new products, like they're first starting with the G70, now the GV80 and the G80, and then we've got the GV70 coming out. Like there's a lot of good stuff coming out from Genesis.
There is.
And people are excited. They're really excited for that.
So why don't you think the CX-9 sells? I was honestly shocked the last time we had one. It's in last place. The Ford Flex, which hasn't even been produced in over a year, outsold it last year.
It's too small on the inside.
But it's not any smaller than Highlander.
But if you look at when I sat in the CX-9, I had it last year, and I showed it to my sister. She got in that thing, and she said immediately, the center console is really wide.
Right. It feels smaller, but the numbers say it's not actually smaller.
But the thing is, though, I think people more care about how it feels, because she got in the car.
I agree with you there. I agree with you on the feel part.
Well, because she got in the car and she's like, "There's nowhere to put my purse." She opens up the back seat and she's like, "The door doesn't open up big enough. I can't put my child seat in here for my daughter." And then she opens up the trunk and she puts the third row down and she puts the stroller in her bag, and she's like, "This is like less space than a CRV," is what she said.
But I would say the problem is, perception is one thing, but when you actually measure it and you look at the cubic feet going on, inches of legroom, inches of headroom, how people actually fit in it, it is almost exactly the same size as Pilot and Highlander. It is very, very, very close on the inside.
Yeah, but dude, there's a Toyota and a Honda dealership on every corner.
Yeah,
right.
There are no Mazda dealerships.
Is very small.
Yeah, so you're
dead last. CX-5 isn't dead last. CX-9 dead last.
You're gonna fall into a Highlander and sign the paperwork, on the way in. But Mazda, you got to go out of your way to actually find, right? And that's a much higher level of commitment than it is to kind of go to the sale-a-thon at Toyota.
Right. Yeah. But then why isn't CX-5 dead last?
I think the CX-5's because CX-5 accounts for about over 50% of their sales.
Yeah,
I think the CX-5 Mazda got the formula right, because it is a little bit smaller on the inside, but it's
a lot smaller on the inside. Legroom is tight. Cargo area is tight.
I think the proportions of the car are a little bit better than the CX-9.
Beautiful. Yeah,
I think.
But both of them are pretty.
Right there. Well, I think the CX-5 is prettier, and I think when they added the turbo engine, the interior is super premium. It's very different than the RAV4 or the CRV.
Nobody buys the turbo. Turbo take rate is less than 5%.
Which is a shame. It is absolutely a shame. But at least they offer it. But I think the reason why the CX-5 does well is it's priced right. It's just sized, right on the outside, maybe not the inside, but on the outside. And it's different. It's different than the RAV4 and the CRV that everybody else has, because everybody, like Alex, you were one of the 420,000 people.
Yeah, we bought a RAV4 hybrid. I will agree. But CX-9, I mean, it is bottom of the pack. I mean, it is selling so slowly. It is shocking. There are so many luxury cars even that sell better than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a mystery, dude. I wish I had something smart to say here. I loved it when I drove it. I thought it would do well, but sometimes like certain cars get into kind of like the water. You know what I mean by that? Like it gets kind of into the conversation, and the people then decide that that's the car that you have to have. And it's funny because cars sell regionally. So let's look at the Flex, right? The Ford Flex that sells well in very limited regions, and I think it's because like if the neighbor gets one, then you want one. But if you can't get that kind of momentum going for the vehicle, it never establishes enough to actually be kind of sought or wanted or recommended. And I think maybe that's a CX-9. It's a hugely competitive space, right? I mean, right now especially, right? So maybe it's also, I don't know what the pricing difference is. Is there more incentives put on the other competitors? Is Toyota more willing to put more money behind their Highlander than Mazda is behind the CX-9 because they don't have that much money to put behind it? There's a lot of play here.
Yeah, it's like some of them I could see that, because it's like obviously the Traverse is going to have more cash, Explorer is going to have more cash, Durango is going to have more cash on the hood, but honestly Highlander and Pilot don't really have that much cash on the hood, and CX-9 is still dead. Flex outsold it.
Yeah, I know, which is crazy.
Anyway, guys, we're coming up on
walking.
We're coming up on almost 2 hours for the chat, so I wanted to start to, wrap things up a little bit. Do you guys have any future travel plans coming up? Even though I know all my travel plans have been canceled. Do you guys have anything coming up?
Actually, after this, I'm going to go upstairs and, turn on the TV.
Great.
Cruise Netflix and see why they keep recommending the same stupid shows that I never click on. That's a mystery to me. Then I'm going to go over to Amazon Prime and be fooled into watching a show that got 3 recommendations and looks like it was shot in a potato by a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
I'm going to give up in disgust. Go to my office.
That sounds exactly like my typical day as well.
I watch yours and Alex's YouTube videos and call it a night. That's
literally what I said in my Model Y video. I said I've traveled to my front yard to review this lovely Model Y for you because a viewer was kind enough to loan it to me. But yes, I'm here in my front yard in my lawn, and of course my husband got super mad at me that I put the car in the grass.
Why can't we go out for a drive? Why is that forbidden all of a sudden?
It's allowed here. You can go out for a drive as long as you don't do anything with anybody. Yeah, that's okay.
You know what they're doing here? The mountain communities are closing off their roads to out of community people. So if I want to go to Clear Creek County, which is like if you go up I-70, if you know where Idaho Springs is, right?
Yeah.
I would not be allowed legally to get off the highway because I don't live up there. Can you believe that? Yeah, it's gotten really crazy.
They haven't done any road closures here, at least, but I can see that being a problem.
And Gilpin County also closed itself off to everybody. So I'm like, what is wrong with going? How am I going to get sick or do anything by going for a drive? I'm not interacting with anybody. I'm not endangering anybody. I'm just going for a drive, but I can't do that. I think at some point it's gotten to the point where it's become a little crazy. I'm not saying you go out and party with 15 of your best friends, but for God's sakes, go for a drive. Get out of the house.
Yeah, because if they took away the driving thing from me, I would definitely start to go crazy.
Just don't get out of your car.
Yeah, don't get out. I'm not saying you don't go out and meet with other people.
On Monday or Tuesday, we're going to be doing our towing torture test. We're going to hook up 2,200 pounds to the RAV4 hybrid, and we're going to drive to Tahoe. So up to 12,000 feet from sea level and then back down and see if we break it. I don't know. We'll find out.
Roman, what are your plans for next week? Are you filming anything?
Yeah. So we're gonna take Tommy's really keen to take the venue off road, which I'm not.
Good luck.
Hey, why not?
We'll see how far
could it be.
It has an off-road mode.
It does. If you're listening, don't be listening. So that's what we're gonna do. We just got Roof Nest, which is a company here in Boulder that does rooftop nests. They just gave us a rooftop nest, and we were gonna go and actually
socially distance.
No, we were going to go and take it to Moab and go camping, which we can't do now, but we can install it. So we have that LR3 that we bought, so we're going to put it on and then demonstrate it. So that's another one of the videos that we're doing.
So and then Tommy's just sleeping in the driveway from now on, then, or?
No, yeah, I'm going to put him in there. And we're supposed to get this, guys. We're supposed to get 12 inches of snow on Easter, so it's going to be interesting again.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. You can go find some empty roads and go do some donuts, right? All right, guys. Well, this has definitely been fun. We'll have to do this again maybe next week. Maybe we can try to invite another YouTuber. See.
It's a 4-way.
we got to get Jason. He just bought a Miata. Did you see that?
I did. He bought his dream fun car. So yeah, maybe we should see if he can join us as well, because I'd love to hear how he ended up with that.
Didn't he have a Miata before? Or am I forgetting that?
I thought he did. He had an S2000 for sure.
But before that, I thought he had a Miata. Maybe the previous gen. Anyway, he got one. So congratulations, Jason, dude. Nice work.
I have to admit, I've always kind of wanted an S2000, and if I could get an S2000 with an updated interior, I'd do it. I haven't seen anybody.
Nothing says divorced dad like an S2000.
I could rock the divorced dad look, because that's when the divorced dad is the one that's supposed to be getting buffer, because they're out there looking for the new girlfriend. So I could rock that. I think I could do that.
So next week we'll try to see if we can invite Jason, and maybe if he's not available, maybe we can invite Matt as well.
It's like a
see what
I've spent my entire coronavirus time moving rocks. So been working on the guns. They're not very impressive, but there's something there. It's not fat anymore.
I love the Floby haircut, dude. It's good.
The Floby, and the workout, yard workout.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this live stream. We had a ton of fun doing this. You guys have been great with all the comments and such. So we'll try to do this again next week, and we'll let you know. Most likely it'll be Friday, and we'll try to invite somebody else to join us. But
yep.
Take care, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Stop live stream.